Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Chen Yida as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen from an act named David Tao, titled Dear God. Well, we have the translation for it here. We're actually going to watch the video in full screen and we're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, Dear God. I love the bluesy.
刚刚看完6点半的新闻，那悲剧又重演。有个妈妈拿着儿子的照片，期盼他会出现。
Great switch for the bridge.
转过头却开始流泪，是惩罚是考验，还要有多少的心碎？爱在这个世界上，爱已被忘记，谁都不相信，谁都不相信，相信爱。 真理和公平都变成了笑话，我不愿意住在这样的城市里。
It's great to go between those guitar leads and David's vocals. To have them intermingle is quite nice as well.
话题都围绕在新色山堡里。 有八卦，没想法，计算逃避，人人都在玩游戏，没有钱，没人理你。我心里很愤怒，真的冷酷让自己麻木，拿生命做赌注。 疯狂还要多久
Interesting harmonic transition there. Great to have a switch up, you know?
没有人在乎，没有人在乎，没有爱，我真的很想要开口骂脏话。 我的错，不是我的错，别怪我 Dear God， 为什么你闭上眼，不想想办法？装作看不见，装作看不见，告诉我爱，告诉我把爱找回来的方法，因为我无法离开这个鬼地方。
I mean, like a lot of what gets you over the line with that part is the variety in the drum fills and different transitions, those tom parts, the way they switch up the rhythms between the 8th and 16ths. Great call and response there. Well done.
刚刚看完远方传来的消息，像噩梦。
Interesting choice there with the chords. They're unusual ones, but they work.
给点力量，让自己能活下去。Dear God， 你在哪里？
This does kind of remind me of Hey Jude from the Beatles, the end of it. That bit of vocal fry at the end is really just that kind of exasperation of calling out to God, I suppose, isn't it? This is a really solid track from David Tao. We're going to have a look through the lyrics, and then we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Thank you again to Chen Yida for sending these lyrics through. I really appreciate that. It's good to kind of know what's going on here. Apparently, David Tao was a police officer in New York at the time that the song was released, and he wrote the song after experiencing the 9/11 incident. David wanted to ask God why people lose their love and hurt others. I mean, you go through, I can't stand to see the next images, like on the 6:30 news, right? Is this punishment or a test? How much more heartbreak must we endure? Has justice and fairness become a joke? I'm not willing to live in this kind of city. Talk topics all revolve around violence and bloodshed. There's gossip but no opinions. Tell me how to bring love back, because I'm unable to leave this horrendous place. I have no way of leaving this horrendous place. It's still my home. Yeah, we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion, because this is Dear God from David Tao. This is the conclusion of my review of this track. So what do I think it's about? I think it is about someone who is clearly just sort of struggling with the aftermath of the 9/11 attack that occurred in the States. Horrific time. I was alive for it. It scarred a lot of people. David, throughout the story, goes through their own feelings and experiences related to it. Examines their own position within it. They mention wanting to get away from it because they don't know how to cope with it. And it's just really difficult for them. You get a feeling that this is truly just a really kind of traumatic experience for them. They're paying attention to what other people want to do as well, and they're not particularly happy about that. And all in all, you just understand. It's a very a wondrous insight into their position at that point in time. It's very raw and authentic. It's very mature. And I appreciate at the end, we're talking about finding the love and getting that back, etc., as if to say, where is the love? That last cry out from David Tao is that desperation to try and find some peace and love in that environment, to sort of figure out what to do next, I suppose, to ask God for their assistance to figure out why it had to happen or why it did happen. David's vocals in this track are fantastic. He's comfortable within his head and chest voice. The melodies are compelling. The harmonies sit well, neatly. There's cool responses with himself as well as other instruments in the mix, including the lead guitar parts. It's just really well voiced and well spoken. There's dynamic range to the performance, incredibly expressive, range of emotions approached, like we at some points we're trying to sort of keep things a bit more sort of like upbeat and cheery, but then other times we are really going through it and we are really crying out with our vocal fry and other bits as well. We're going through a range of emotions, and David communicates those really effectively. And I think we managed to find the right balance between trying to sort of pour our heart out on tape while also creating a song where people can sing along with it and try and agree with it and enjoy the experience. Maybe not of hearing what occurred, but of sort of finding solace in that, I suppose, at the very least, outside of enjoying the song for its musicality. This track, of course, being 5.5 minutes, it's a longer song, but I feel like it used that time really well. There was that guitar solo section at the start with the strummed, guitar chords there, the bass and the drums. The organs enter a bit later on, and you do have strings, that interlude section there. There is just an effortless transition between those verse, bridge, and chorus elements within the track with those several solo parts. And then the interlude as well near the end. There are these unexpected chords, like we have majors and minors, but then we also have dominant 7th chords and also some parallel majors and minors, which just showcase David Tao's songwriting chops. Like, honestly, I'm so impressed with the effort put in to try and make this experience what it was. It's incredible stuff. You have a piece where whether it is drummed or it's the bendy distorted leads on the guitar, which is soaring through the sky like birds, you know, like the hopes flying up trying to reach the ears of God. The bass line typically being more sort of respectful to the root notes of the chords. The drums were one of my favorite parts of the track, primarily because of the variety of different drum beats and fills. I think it was really cool to have so many different ways of including the snare and kick patterns with the different toms working on offbeat 16ths or whatever, there being little switch ups. Sometimes there were just slow crescendos of alternate snare hits. The drums were fantastic and they never felt out of place, and it's part of what made the second chorus, or the one that was twice as long, even more special. It's not just the unusual chords that were used, which occasionally sort of like took us aside. It's not just the wide variety of different elements in the mix that really made it effective, and how tightly they were played. It's also the fact that we had the strings there for a bit of extra emotional weight near the end there, just to sort of gauge the heaviness of it, to lift up later on when we wanted the sort of chanting and this humming along and the yeahs and all that kind of stuff. It was a nice foil because you thought it was going to get heavier, then it comes back up. And they get like the keys of the organ resonating in the mid to highs, just for a bit of shimmer and sheen and almost a sense of spirituality about it. I think that when you combine all these elements, you have a track which incorporates sort of country blues elements there in a way where it is trying to communicate that it is sad and is struggling to get through it, but is also trying not to lose hope, and it is trying to find some way to answer what is going on in the world. It's a track where David never becomes too sort of like dire. It's always trying to keep mid or high, but that last cry with that extended note is really him getting to the end of his tether, even with that generosity in regards to not letting things get him down too much. It's such a palatable track, but it is also, if you read between the lines, you understand how it affects David. And I think that, again, some of those minor turns and unintended or unpredictable switches in the harmonies, they let you know that there's some really deep stuff going on there that maybe isn't even being explicitly stated. You just kind of get hints of the darkness, but it's still very well balanced, and I understand why it's very popular. I think if you've been too on the nose with this, it just would have been a little bit too much, so I'm glad that we treated it the way it was. But the studio recording, mixing and mastering was tight, commercial grade. David's vocals were fantastic in the mix. He can clearly sing. The guitars, bass, drums, keys, strings, etc., they were all handled well in their respective positions of the frequency spectrum. In the stereo field, there was dynamic range, and it was nice and loud without bumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. The vocals, when there were also the crowd chants later on, they also surrounded you. It sounded like you're in a room full of people trying to sort of find that love, and I genuinely appreciate it. It's very clever. But this is my review of this track from an act named David Tao, titled Dear God, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show David Tao some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SC Patrons video. Spiderhands out.